homeless shelter in Lakeside. They are being provided with network connectivity that only the Bay Area has, only really rich people can afford in Silicon Valley. We've brought that here to Cleveland, connecting 9 buildings at the highest speed known to physics to actually make possible connecting St. Vincent's Charity Hospital, which is already on a very high-speed network, the Men's Homeless Shelter, Stepstone Academy, and 6 CMHA properties. And our vision and hope is, and you can see the map, is to touch all of the community going forward. Training begins now. That's the whole goal of the effort going forward. If, Councilman, if you would mind just taking us to the last. It's not possible to do this as a nonprofit organization alone. It takes a village here to connect the unconnected, and we've been extremely lucky to have folks that you've heard about, but also to be sure that you hear about RET3 in just a moment. These are players from around the world. Colleagues are flying in tomorrow to Mr. Patterson's CMHA Cedar Avenue Extension Program to celebrate what we're doing together as a community, to be part of that activity, and have really made a first of its kind that everyone around the world is extremely excited to be lighting up tomorrow. And the last little piece here, just next slide if you don't mind, Councilman. This is, people kind of go, so how are you actually doing it? So the next set of slides is, right, you heard perhaps, just to connect a point that was made by Julian Curtis, this is over the air. This is not fiber in the ground. This is not telephone pole activity. This is up in the air. Next slide. Those are actually activities. They have to connect somewhere in the building. This is how they connect. You can see the yellow fiber coming off the roof into the building. They connect into a switch room, or it's called the DMARC, the telecommunications room in this apartment. Next. And then inside the room, thanks to the amazing work of RET3 and their recycling program, we're providing every single resident in this pilot program with all the equipment and all the training that they need to be able to take advantage, training that is relevant to applying for jobs, for checking their healthcare records, and all the ways that you've just heard are incredibly compelling. Again, training is critical. There is no getting from here to there without training. Again, connecting the unconnected is a community-wide partnership. And we hope that we can work with all of you to make this not just a pilot for this program, and not only to touch CMHA's facility in the men's and women's homeless shelter, but to touch all of our community to create a model for the land and maybe for the world on how working together we can create a dedicated network to connect the unconnected. Thank you.
Great. And if you could, Lev, just reiterate the time tomorrow at the Cedar High Rise for the opening.
3:30 to 5.
3:30 to 5 tomorrow.
Very good. Thank you so much. And I think it's on Digital C and CMHA's Facebook, Twitter, websites, et cetera. Ken, please introduce yourself.
He's taking my. I'm Ken Kovacs from RET3. I'm the director, and I'm elated to be here with all your people, and particularly people like Lev and Wanda and Bill. Through the years, we've created a lot of great programs, and I expect to do many more with Lev, because I think I would jump on his bandwagon. I'll be successful before I retire.
I think you've been pretty successful. Please.
I've been retired 3 times.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Very good. What we're going to turn to next is we're going to have some presentations. We're really kind of life stories here, led by Billy Sharp, Chief Executive Officer for Mastering Generosity Unlimited. And we have today also students from ASC3 who will actually explain a little bit about their experiences in the training that they've received and the impacts that it's had on their lives. Billy?
Good afternoon, Council. I'm honored to be here. My name is Billy Sharp. I'm the Executive Director of Mastering Generosity Unlimited. And before I joined that organization and took it over, I had an organization called the Straightway Project on St. Clair Avenue. And we started in this, I believe, 4 years ago. We started with the Obama stimulus package program, Connect Your Community. We were providing computer classes for seniors. It was an extraordinary program. I'd like to say something about the man who brought me here, Bill Callahan. I think he, as many of you know, has been a warrior in trying to connect everyday people to the internet. And I'd like us right now to give him a round of applause. So the concept of keeping people connected or getting people connected to the internet is really interesting. It's has a place in my heart. I had seniors that when they went through our program, we had a graduation for them at the end of the year, and it was like they graduated from Harvard. They invited friends. We had Councilman Johnson out to one of our graduations. Extraordinary program. Some of those same seniors, if I can give some testimony, and I want to actually offer the council testimony after this from those people who completed those classes, some written testimony from them. I think it's 52% of the seniors that I graduated, I am personally still in contact with through the internet, be it Facebook or email or what have you. So that tells me the program works. How satisfied they are. I have one lady who graduated from the computer that she got from RET3, thank you. She's graduated now to a tablet. She's about 70 years old. A few of the students I have actually helped me run my food bank. They do registration. We use a computer system through the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. It's just wonderful. So let me just close by saying the internet is here. The city should be in front of this ball instead of behind of it. It's coming, and we've got to have our citizens prepared.
Great, thank you so much. And Billy, who would you like to introduce to speak in terms of their
we'll just start down at the end. Go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself.
My name is Doug Smith.
Come on, if you could please move to a chair where there's a microphone, please. And just pull the mic up and speak in the mic. Again, the hearing's being streamed live and recorded on Channel 20. Please.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about a computer probably about 4 months ago. I had an email address, but I didn't know how to send, what do you call it? Kind of got brain freeze here. But
Email.
I can compose emails. I can look up music, make charts. Just it's quite remarkable. I'm 55 years old, and before a couple months ago, I had tried to learn a computer, but with some great super people, Rick Mosley and Tracy Boucher. Those two people are outstanding and compassionate, and they helped me along, and I really am in debt to those people. And what I know now, I hope I can learn 1,000,000 times on top of that with time.
Could you give us your name again?
My name is Doug Smith.
Okay, Doug Smith.
Thank you so much, Doug. And Doug, all the presenters here, so you've received both training and equipment?
Not equipment.
Not equipment, but
I've
training.
received training.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Laverne Mitchell. I'm a retired secretary from the East Cleveland City Schools. Most of my career was working on a electric typewriter. So when I got promoted to superintendent of school secretary, they said, here's your computer. And so I learned how to do my work on it, but I didn't know any of the technicalities. And I've been retired now for 15 years. And I knew that technology had left me way behind. So when I heard about the Ashbury, the senior citizens, I enrolled immediately. And I got a friend of mine to join too. I've learned so much. And I have a computer at home, and I'm learning it for real.
Great.
But I enjoy the class, and the teachers, the instructors are so well-versed and patient. So I will continue going.
Great, thank you so much. Sir, please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Jamil Amir. I'm a French professor from UC Berkeley, and I'm a person that didn't know anything at all about the internet, not even the home row. When we graduated in '74 from Cal,
Speaking like, yes.
There was no internet, it was telex.
Yeah.
Since I've been at the Ashbury Community Center, Dr. Davis and Professor Seward have provided me with internet hotspots, which has a very good range, desktop, laptops, and now I have the ability to send, receive emails, shop online, look up my health records, book airline tickets. I've achieved digital awareness, and that's paramount in this society that we live in now, because if you're not technically prepared, you'll become socially stratified, which is the unequal distribution of wealth, knowledge, and anything society deems valuable for elimination of large masses of people from competition of scarce natural resources. You need that knowledge of the computer, and that was provided to me in a very kind, poised, palatable way at the Ashbury Center for Seniors.
Well, thank you so much. And before we move on, so Doug, you said about 3 or 4 months. Lorraine, how long? When did you get your initial training? Yes.
Okay, it's Laverne.
Or Laverne, I'm sorry. When did you originally start the training? How long has it been?
I guess it's been about 2 years now.
2 years.
I think I have 3 certificates.
3, yes, so you're keeping going. And Jamil, how about you? When did you start?
About 2 years ago, I have 3 certificates.
3 certs, okay, great. And is Wanda still in the room? Wanda, how many certification programs do you have?
They can go through a series of 5, and then if they want to come back, they will repeat again.
Great, all right, thank you.
You should repeat what you just said.
So there's 5, and if they want to go on,
Yeah, a lot of them want to continue because they don't want to lose what they learned, so they're allowed to come back and continue learning.
so they can continue learning after 5 certificate programs and continue their journey.
Yeah, and like I told you from the beginning, everything changes almost every 6 months, so there's always something new that they have to pick up, and so these seniors are tech savvy, they don't want to be left behind.
Great, so just to repeat that for the televised audience, the training can continue. Clearly, I've been there, there's a culture in a group, again, I said camaraderie earlier, that are going through this. It's a real cohesive family that go through these training programs and continue their learning. Lev, you wanted to make a comment?
Just a brief addendum, just to share with you that as part of the program that I shared, announced this morning, you will all be hearing about a program called Restart, which is an effort to take what comes beyond digital literacy training and these initial certifications is really an opportunity to get skilled up, to join the digital economy, not necessarily as a coder, so this is not a big threshold. This is what comes next. It's helping do break fix. It's helping people get basic certifications for Microsoft technologies and for help desk supports and the like. So keep an eye open for Restart. It's, again, a partnership program for delivery through the community.
Great, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Mozella Thomas, and I go to ASC3, which is the Senior Citizen Community Center on Asbury. Okay, I've been there, and this is going into my 3rd year. I've learned quite a bit about the computer. I'm able to send messages. I'm able to send stuff to my email, from my email to different people. I'm able to email my grandkids and keep in touch with them and go on I go on the internet and send them different pictures and stuff, and they do me. I love my instructors. They are very firm and to the point, and they take very good time out with you. So Mr. Stewart and Ms. Davis take a pretty good time, and it's not easy, but I appreciate them taking the time out with me to help me go further as I can, and I love the computer. Okay?
Great, thank you so much.
I am, but I know computer.
Well, and you know, I just wanted to say, TJ, Councilman Dow and Councilman Reed had wanted to make some comments. I don't know if it might be appropriate if you guys wanted to make a comment or a point right now. Again, we do have Leon Wilson, who's going to be wrapping up for us for the Clean Foundation, but if you want to take a point right now,
Sure.
Councilman. Oh, please, sure.
Excuse me. I also want to thank the council. I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank Councilman Conwell, because he's always there for us. If we need him, he come, he assists us, and he's there for the graduation, and he really stands with Ms. Davis now to try to assist and help us. So I thank him for that.
Right, and Ms. Elad, thank you for that. I wanted to also mention, Councilman Conwell was not able to join us today, but I know, 3 or 4 years ago, Bill and Wanda, we really worked together with Councilman Conwell, and I assisted, in addition to the funding that he's been providing to ASC3, we also opened up a West Side Connector Community Training Center as well. So the work in the collaboration that we have with CMHA, Digital C, all the groups that we've mentioned has just been fabulous, and we've really spread it across the entire city. Councilman Dow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember, and I'll probably date myself, I remember growing up, that was not an extra bill that we had to have internet in the house. But I do remember, and some of you may also remember, I remember the Commodore 64, the Commodore 128, and I had my computer, and I would make sure I had all these discs, and I would go through them and look at the games and the different stuff that I could do with this computer, and that was kind of my first taste of just having access, I guess, to some digital. But I will say that Mr. Lev Ganich, right? First opportunity I had to meet with you, and I do like your energy. I look forward to working with you as well. And just like you said, you want first class, and that's exactly what I want for my residents. And we will have a first class, state-of-the-art facility for a resource center in our community. And we are in the process now of putting our workshops together for that facility, and I know that you guys are going to be very instrumental in helping us do that, and I appreciate that. Had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Chase, who is dynamite, dynamite. And met Wanda today, and she jumped on it already as far as talking with Addison. I'll have to say that being in this position opened my eyes up, because when I go into the libraries, that is the center place where folks come that do not have access to internet. Those kids are in there on the computers. When folks are coming in for looking for jobs, they're going to the libraries. And it's just good to be able to supplement them and doing some things in the community to give more access to that. So I commend you for the work that you're doing. And the young lady, what's your name, ma'am?
Mozella Thomas.
Ms. Thomas. So I was listening to you, and you talked about your grandkids, and so trust me and believe that they have taken note that you are emailing them, because I always have to do a second take. It's almost like that moment in time where you never forget when you get your first text message from your grandmother and you're wondering, who taught them that, Or you get your first email, Just the other day, I got a phone call on Facebook from my grandmother, and I was wondering, how does she know how to use that, So you always have those first when you interact with your grandparents, and you're wondering how they learn that. So trust me, your grandkids are taking note of that. So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say that this is a very important, and I definitely commend you for having this, Councilman. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councilman Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank you and all the other council members who put this together. It's very important for people to understand that some of the things that some of us take for granted because we do have a little money in our pocket, others are struggling every single day to just provide the services over in our communities. So I definitely want to thank you and commend you, and I hope this is not just, I hope we have a takeaway today, that we're just not having a conversation. That's my hope, wish, and desire. But there were 2 points that I did want to make. First of all, I think he just made the point. I mean, I've been a councilman now for 16 years, and I can tell you, and I think Lev and I have talked about this, on the corner of 131st and Union, when Barbara Byrd Bennett was the CEO, I got her to demolish Alexander Hamilton, and I've got then Andy Venable to agree to consolidate the 2 libraries in Mount Pleasant, the one on 131st and the one on 140th, to make one comprehensive library to compete with the library in Shaker, because many of my residents were going to Shaker because they had research and they had internet and they had computers. And because of politics, I've been moved out of that community, and it's still a vacant lot. And I've called it an education campus, where we would literally have the internet service for everybody in Mount Pleasant. And hopefully, if things change in the next year, we will get that education campus on that corner that the people in the community have been asking for over a decade, because they understand what we were trying to do. But last but not least, I just want to say, if you just look at that, and I wish that the doctor was back so we can go to the one that showed the employment component. One of the many you know, one of the things I harp about all the time is the violence in the city of Cleveland. And I have a saying, the many you know, that nothing stops a bullet like a job. And you can see from the slide that she put up there with the employment component, you see it's one of the social determinants, but the one that she showed that you can see the employment and the lack of internet service in those communities. And I just did a little simple math. Just with the slide, just with the map that you see from the city of Cleveland, those communities that you see lack the internet service, those wards alone of the 41 homicides that have been committed in the city of Cleveland right now have 32 of the 41. 42 of the 31 most violent neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland in 2017, and if we went back a few more years, are the ones that lack the internet, which lack the ability to get the employment, which lack the ability to get the education or attainment. And this is why I continue to say, we've got to start looking at this violence from a public health standpoint and stop looking at it from a law enforcement standpoint. People are suffering in our communities, and the violence is a symptom of that situation. And this right here shows you. You can see it. These are the maps that show you. You look at, just to repeat in closing, you know, other 41 homicides, 32 are in these areas right here that don't have internet service. So if they don't have internet service, they can't get a good job. They can't get a good education. And we know those are two of the biggest situations that put them in a violent situation. So we've got to look at this situation of violence in our community from a public health standpoint, and I'm glad to see that we now can highlight it even from an internet standpoint. And I've said all along, and I'm glad she said it too, we got to put community health workers in our communities, period. We look at this, community health workers as just doctors, and from the doctor standpoint, they need to be in our communities teaching our people from a wide range. So I just wanted to highlight that. You can see it if you do an overlay of these neighborhoods and do an overlay of all the neglect that has happened. You can see that it's not a coincidence that those neighborhoods are struggling every single day, because we've neglected those neighborhoods. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Reed. Billy, please follow up.
Just to Councilman Reed's point, how much safer the city would be if a large amount of our citizens were connected to the internet, where the city would be able to send out informed notice about events that were happening around the city. I think that's a marvelous point.
Great. And what I'd like to do now is excuse everyone that's at the table except for Leon and Lev. I'd like to bring back up Wanda and Bill. And Leon, why don't you come right here in the center? And we're great, and we're honored to be having our presence, Leon Wilson from the Cleveland Foundation. I'll let Leon explain his title and his role in the work. Really is serving as the kind of our digital hub leader, really here in the city. And Leon's going to help us wrap it up and kind of explain some of the strategies that he and all the partners are pursuing. And I also wanted to mention, and Leon, I think you're aware of this, and Lev as well, and Bill and Wanda, we actually have the members and representatives of our Cleveland Civic Tech and Open Data Collaborative are actually doing a meeting today, right now actually as we speak, with, I believe, either reporters and or editorial board of the Cleveland Plain Dealer to explain their efforts and work in terms of the collaborative. And I think Leon's probably going to touch on a variety of issues that are being done right now. We've really seen quite an upshot in really momentum gaining, particularly in this past year, although the work that's been described today goes back 15 years plus. And I think more than anything, what we've learned thus far today is the really rich social, kind of nonprofit, institutional work that's been going on for many years. In fact, I'm not going to steal Leanne's thunder. I think that's actually a strong point of our region. And with that, please, Leanne Wilson.
Oh, I think it's probably now afternoon.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, City Council. And for those of you who have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Leon Wilson. I'm the Chief of Digital Innovation and the Chief Information Officer at the Cleveland Foundation. And there's nothing a whole lot more for me to say than what's already been said. It's the residents talking about, telling their stories about the necessity of access to the internet. This afternoon at the Cleveland Foundation, we're having our annual meeting, and at that annual meeting, we have Steve Case as our keynote speaker, which 30 years ago created America Online. Now, at that time, we were talking about 3% of the United States being online. See how far we transpired in the last 30 years, where now it's no longer a nicety, as the council member was talking about. It's no longer a nicety, it's a necessity. So we, the Cleveland Foundation, and my charge is to really just try to accelerate this type of development, accelerate this work. Our board, Ron Richard and myself, are working knee-deep in all of this. Everything that you've been talking about, everything that you've heard over this past couple of hours is what I've been working with and meeting with all these individuals over the past year to better understand how the Cleveland Foundation can best position our philanthropic dollars, our convening capital, and our leadership to support and make Cleveland where it ought to be in the digital economy and addressing digital equity and inclusion. So we have our Digital Excellence Initiative, which I lead, to really facilitate a lot of the work that you're talking about. When you're talking about what Dr. Amy Schoen is doing in the research work as far as the social determinant, those are grant-making opportunities that we're looking at trying to invest to provide her that kind of experimental analysis on how the impact of lack of internet access and digital literacy is impairing our low to moderate income residents. What you see going on with Lev Gonick and with Wanda and other people as they're trying to basically galvanize and amplify their work in teaching more of our residents is efforts behind the scenes that we, the Cleveland Foundation, are getting behind and trying to find a way how best can we reposition our dollars to help make sure that they're maximizing their efforts. So all in all, Cleveland Foundation since 1914 has been about improving the quality of life of residents in Cuyahoga County and primarily Cleveland. And my job is to look at that through the lens of technology and see what are we doing to improve the digital quality of life. It's no longer a nicety, it's a necessity. We get it, and we're putting our dollars behind to support that. So with that, if I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and meet with you, I'm always, you know where to find us. Everybody knows where to find us. And I'm always happy to sit down and chat with any one of you so that we can build an authentic, intentional partnership and come up with an actual plan as opposed to piecemealing our way through this. We can't do this piecemeal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leon. And please send our regards to Ron Richards. I will be attending the event later on this afternoon. But the leadership of Ron Richards and then bringing in Leon. Leon, you've been in Cleveland now not quite 2 years.
About 18 months.
18 months. And like you said, Leon has been a real accelerator in the work that he's done. What I'd like to do now is maybe some closing comments, if we want to just go right down. Lev.
Again, I want to thank you, Councilman, for convening and chairing this joint committee hearing. We know that everything that we've spoken about today requires leadership. We have catalytic leadership from the Cleveland Foundation. We have a coalition of nonprofits and a coalition of the willing. In our community, in the greater Cleveland area, we appeal to you today to lend your political and civic leadership to this activity, because when we look around the world, and especially in the United States, we are not unique in the challenges, but absent political leadership to build broad coalitions of support between the public sector, the private sector, the philanthropic sector, and the nonprofit sector, we don't have enough time in our lifetimes to do this one organization at a time, $1 at a time. This engagement today around digital inclusion. My takeaway message here is it's about time we got from third worst in the nation towards being in that top 5 in the nation when it comes to connectivity, and that requires thinking at scale, supporting all of the initiatives that individual council persons are doing, but coming together with an integrated plan to help everybody get to a point where we can celebrate not just that we have chicken wire for a connection into our homes or our apartments, but that we have the world's best internet access, because we know that's a prerequisite for actually being active citizens in the 21st century with opportunities for jobs, better health, and keeping in touch with the people we love.
Great, thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I could not agree more. One of the advantages of being part of the National Digital Inclusion Alliance is that we get to see what's going on all over the country. And one of the takeaways from that window into the world is that the cities which have strong strategic coalitions doing this stuff are the cities where city halls are leading that effort. And I think it's one of the things that in the 20 years, God, that scares me, that I've been involved in community work around this area, the places where we've really been able to put down roots are the places like Kevin Conwell's ward, Brian Cummins' ward, Kevin Kelly's ward, where councilmen have taken leadership, and it's really necessary now for the city as a whole to take leadership. I also want to acknowledge that there's other partners besides the ones who've spoken at the table who need to be acknowledged. For example, Cleveland Public Library, which is represented here but hasn't spoken, has been an enormously important partner and driver for all of this stuff. I actually would be very remiss in not saying that AT&T, about which there's various controversies that I've been involved, nonetheless, right, needs to be acknowledged that they are out there providing affordable internet to a lot of households because of their agreement with the FCC a year and a half ago. And that's a real resource that we should not forget, even as we think about kind of long-term policy questions we may have. And so I really want to acknowledge that. It would be remiss not to. And there are others. I won't try the list. But the point is, it isn't just the people who are at the table. And it can't just be at the people at the table. A lot of what Lev and Leon were talking about is really the ability to take this from the coalition of the willing to the coalition of people who aren't quite willing yet. because this is going to be a big job.
Great, thank you. And before we turn it over for our wrap up with Wanda Davis, what I'd like to do is just quickly run through, because I didn't have the list in front of me before. On the screen is part of the presentation that our collaborative members will be giving to the Plain Dealer today. But not on the screen is all of the partners, and I'm going to try to capture them. And if I miss anything, someone just fill in, okay? So we have the Center of Urban Poverty and Community Development at Case Western Reserve, Open Cleveland, Open Neo, Hack Cleveland, and really the Planning Commission, as well as the Building and Housing Department, as well as the Health Department, have been very much involved with CASE and Health Data Matters, et cetera. So they're part of the city administration's components within our collaborative. As you can see from the timeline, the collaborative really, we won't get into the details of it, but we really just started in, I think, June of 2016. So we're coming on a year, but a lot of work precedes all of that. And now we're just working in a more robust monthly collaborative meeting. And then I also want to include, of course, Digital C, the Cleveland Foundation, the Global Shapers, and Bill mentioned the Cleveland Public Library. And just a word on the providers. This was really important, I believe, for Digital Inclusion Week to really highlight the assets that we have on the ground in the history and the great work that's being done in really the acceleration of the work that we're doing. I'll say, though, that there's much more to discuss on this topic. And at some point, I'd be, and I know that I've been in touch with them, at some point, I would love to bring the service providers for internet use to the table as well and have a more robust discussion relative to the actual technical aspects, the excitement that you're doing with the wireless, but also the physical connections. Because as we said, and my colleagues were kind of whispering in my ear to say, make sure that we explain that just because you have mobile access through an iPhone or an Android phone, you can't do homework on that. And as mentioned, the amount of data usage is it's just not fair to believe or to believe the myth that somehow by having some smartphone or tablet in your home with a data plan is going to get you what you need. And with that, please, Wanda, really happy to have you wrap it up for us here. And we'll have points after Wanda, please.
Fantastic, Councilman Cummings. I just want to say, for me coming and speaking for the folks that we serve, we want to thank you and council for having this first convening. I think this is the first of this kind. I have been honored by you for the work that we do in the community as Ashbury Senior Computer Center, but to have a collaborative to come together and for you and the rest of council to take notice of all the work that's being done and to now come to a point where we're going to have a very, very valid conversation and perhaps have this be the first stepping stone to more things to come in the future. One thing we have to know, and I want to say this, and is that we asked our residents, and I'm one of them, and all of us are one of them, we asked them to go online and to use the information that we have. So shouldn't we provide them with the best quality internet service and the best training so that when we ask them to go on and utilize all the services that you guys have throughout the city, local, county, and statewide, they should have the best to be able to use it. So it has the best training, the best internet service, and the best connectivity.
Great.
And with that, I say thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And we're going to have some closing comments by my colleagues. I do want to say, though, that if you've taken any photos of your colleagues up here presenting, make sure that you tweet them out with the hashtags digital inclusion and hashtag CLE, as well as citing the @CLE City Council Twitter account. That'll help get us on the map, and hopefully we're trending right now on Twitter. If anybody knows if we are, let me know. And then the other thing I would mention is we did pretty good. We went about 15 minutes over the time that we expected. Thank you all for your patience. Again, we're going to have some closing comments of my colleagues, but I would also say this. Make sure that you pull out your cards and share information. Part of the work that we're being challenged to do by Leon and with all of our other partners is to ensure that we make great connections. So if you've not met someone who has intrigued you with their testimony today, please make sure that you introduce yourselves to them, and let's make sure that we connect the connected and the unconnected. And with that, Councilman Kane, any last words?
No, thank you.
Councilman Johnson?
Mr. Chairman,
please.
I also use this hashtag on their chest. Is that a good one too?
Oh, net for all CLE, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious you wanted me to use that hashtag.
Yes, I'm sorry for not again, it's net, the number 4, all CLE.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me just say that I do appreciate everyone here. Wanda is iconic in the Glenville area when it comes to a pioneer, when it comes to closing the digital gap. And I do want to acknowledge her presence here at the table. And I also want to just acknowledge the work of the groups to try to close this gap. I'm happy to see AT&T finally doing something. I'm not happy with their past, but we'll deal with the fact that they made an agreement. I am of the community that was historically red line. I'm in Glenville. I remember when they tried to roll, why I couldn't access. I remember wondering why I couldn't access certain of their products because they would not, step up because we were in a questionable income, were they going to have enough customers, I assume was their ultimate question. There should be no, as we've mentioned here, there should be no social economic barriers to access to the internet. Cleveland has just gone to an all-web signing up for a job. I'm not sure whether it was the appropriate thing to do in light of the gap. I know the libraries are out there, but I still think it was premature because we still need to close the gap before you tell folks they cannot they cannot come in and fill out a paper application. I'm still against that decision, given what we talked about today, but we will continue to fight. I fight for our programs. Billy Sharp, I want to acknowledge his program at the Straightway Church that I did attend one of the graduation. It was a fun environment when I walked in there. People were learning. People were learning something that opened up their world, and I saw it up close, and their graduation was one of joy. We just have to continue to share that joy of access to the web, and I just want to do everything I can to do that. I want to acknowledge NEON. We have a $3 million East Side Market project where, as part of that project, a 7-mile radius will be free access. That's part of the East Side Market project. So as we put things together, we're trying hard in our different ways to give access. So continue your work, and we'll continue to support you. There's more that needs to be done, and I just want to acknowledge all your hard work. Thank you.
Great, and just a comment on that, part of the work that we're collectively doing is to also really try to tease out and promote and map the various technology training centers. Of course, we have our libraries. We have two of the best libraries in the country, in the region, relative to Cleveland Public and Cuyahoga. But we also have a lot of other training facilities, be it, I know in my own area, with Seeds of Literacy, May Dugan, Esperanza, you mentioned NEON. There's a lot. So we really want to, again, make sure that we promote the assets that we have in this work. Councilman Dow, Councilman Reed, any closing comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess it's a clarification on your part on the takeaway situation. One, I know you mentioned it, but are we going to follow up? Because, AT&T has worked very hard to make our neighborhoods more internet savvy. So it's, would the AT&Ts and the Spectrums and other companies be able to come to the table to talk about their ways of remedying the problems that they have had in the past? We need to acknowledge that. But I think that their new attitude is that we want to see these communities become more internet savvy and opportunities. So is that opportunity going to be given to companies like AT&T to be able to come?
Absolutely. We're going to have service providers here. I think part of that discussion really needs to be potentially more of a technical issue in terms of the physical infrastructures and the best practices around the country. We didn't really want to take the time today in this short period.
Right.
2 hours and 20 minutes is long enough probably. But we definitely want to get to that. And as you can see, with our really strong collaborative partners, I think we're going to be, I think we're set for a couple hearings yet, but that will probably be the next.
All right, and last but not least, is it, and I guess those with the technology that Lev was talking about, I can just tell you, for instance, I talked about the Mount Pleasant Library that's on 140th, but if you get to 140th in Kinsman, it's a dead spot. With the library there and the county building there. And it's places like that, you come all the way up Kinsman and you get to 130th and get to 140th, it's a dead spot. Every time I'm talking to someone on the phone, they're like, hey, you're breaking up. And there's no reason to have a Murtis Taylor there, to have a county building there, the Seeds of Literacy is in there, and then the library there. But if I'm in and around the library downtown, it immediately says to me, talking to our library people, do you want to go on their website? So I don't know how we are able to maybe fix that in our communities, that in some places, until we fix all the households, if you get to a certain part in a certain part of a neighborhood, at least we can fix that part, that, hey, you can get on the internet or you won't lose access. I don't know how that works, but I think that should be another conversation about, until we're able to fix all the households, let's at least fix the assets in our communities. We can put these technologies on top of roofs. So I think those would be the two, because our libraries are great assets in our communities, and we need to figure out how we can use them, because they're in our libraries and our rec centers are in every ward in the city of Cleveland.
Great.
And we need to figure out how we use those assets to get our people that are not going there but are near there the ability to have the internet. And then last but not least, I know he's gone, but we don't give enough accolades to Mr. Patterson of CMHA. He talked about the fact that we take for granted And I guess until I started working in housing authority, I took for granted, but I no longer do. When he talked about the fact that Cleveland is the 7th largest public housing development in the entire country. That means he has a lot of people that he oversees every single day. And it's not about just providing housing, it's about providing other things. And for him to be one of the leaders to step up and say, hey, I want the people, my residents in our housing authority to be able to have this asset in their communities, that's a big push forward. And it's great to have a director of a housing authority that at least stepped up and said, yes, that's something. So I'm sorry he had to leave, but I think that that's something that we take for granted, to be able to say that we've had a Claire Freeman, we had a Patterson, we had some others that are there that understands they're not second-class citizens in the city of Cleveland. They are first-class, world-class citizens in the city of Cleveland, and therefore we should treat them that way. And to have a director like Mr. Patterson that understands that, I think that's important for us to say publicly.
Great, thank you. Councilman Dowd?
Yeah, very briefly, I know that we talk at this table a lot about closing the gap for a lot of huge projects, $15 million, $20 million, $30 million projects, but it's good to talk about closing the gap, even if it's financially, for providing for folks that may not be able to provide certain services. And I think a lot of our conversations is always about these big projects and having ribbon cuttings and showing this new brick and mortar and these nice shiny buildings and talk about how many jobs it's going to create. Talking about providing services for poor folks is not always sexy. It ain't something people jump for. And so we have to start thinking about, if AT&T is having issues financially or coming in certain neighborhoods, then maybe there has to be a collaboration with AT&T and government, just like they do with all these other nice projects that they bring that doesn't make financial sense unless they're getting money from the state, unless they're getting money from the county, unless they're getting money from the city to build these nice big buildings. And so the thing that I love, and Ward 7 has the benefit of being strategically located. All wards aren't created equal, I always say that. We have the benefit of having those institutions in and around us, but we definitely shouldn't have kids that have missed the 3rd grade reading guarantee by 2 and 3 points and have to redo the entire grade, and their mother and their grandmother are calling me asking for help. And at this stage in Huff, I don't have any facility or program to send them to. And all that is going to be resolved. And the beautiful thing about this resource center is the community set the agenda for the resource center. Not big institutions, not other folks, but we definitely need their help to carry out our agenda. But we have buy-in from the community, because they're going to be involved from day one, and they've been involved, and they'll continue to be involved. And when we break ground this summer, it's going to be fabulous for Ward 7 and the three communities I represent. And I look forward to working with everybody at this table as we move forward. Thank you, Mr.
Great, thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Taylor Henschel, my assistant, who assisted with the organizing of this joint committee, as well as Takasha and Olivia. Raise your hands there. And John James. Thanks again for all the presenters and for everyone that showed up today. This concludes the Joint Committee on Digital Inclusion for City Council. Thank you.